The shadow never vanishes. It lingers, heavy and silent, waiting for the right external trigger to call it forth. More often than not, that trigger is another person. You become the mirror. You become the embodiment of what someone has denied within themselves. This is the mechanism of psychological projection. Your confidence highlights the deep-seated insecurity they cannot admit. Your discipline exposes the laziness or passivity they have hidden behind excuses. Your joy or freedom reveals the chains of fear and obligation they have willingly locked themselves into. Your authenticity destabilizes the false mask or persona they depend on for approval and survival. When this happens, they do not truly see you. They see their own shadow reflected in you, and they despise that reflection. Hatred, envy, and resentment are, therefore, often nothing more than projections of their unclaimed, unhealed, and feared parts. They wage war not because of your actions, but because your existence unsettles their illusion of self. You become the mirror that shows them who they are, and that reflection is unbearable. Instead of facing their own darkness, they attempt to destroy the mirror. They speak against you, distance themselves, or undermine you, operating under the tragic delusion that by removing you, they can remove the shadow. 2. The threat of authenticity and light. Beyond the shadow, your willingness to live an authentic life, to simply be without the constant need for masks, is a profound disarming force that often provokes resistance. Authenticity is a threat because it reveals falsehood. Many people survive by constructing identities that are palatable to others, roles that win approval and shield them from rejection. The presence of someone who lives truthfully destabilizes this fragile armor. It acts as a silent confrontation that registers deep in their unconscious. Your refusal to conform highlights their own compliance and self-betrayal. Your courage to speak a difficult truth calls out their fear and silence. Your unapologetic self reminds them of the compromises they have made and the self they abandoned to meet expectations. Because your authenticity is perceived as a danger to their carefully constructed reality, their defense mechanism often action, criticism, or outright contempt. They are not repelled by your flaws, they are often repelled by your essence, because it demands they question their own inauthenticity. It is easier to scorn the one who stands in truth than to face the prison of one's own falsehood. 3. The silent war of unseen power dynamics. Conflict is also frequently ignited by a shift in the invisible hierarchies and power dynamics that govern all human relationships. Power is not always about authority, it is often about influence, emotional leverage, and the control of validation. In any close connection, there is an undercurrent of who validates, who seeks validation, who influences, and who is influenced. These roles are rarely static, and when they change, tension arises. When you set a boundary, you disturb the old balance. The person who benefited from your compliance suddenly sees their unspoken control slipping. Their hostility is a reaction to the loss of power, not the boundary itself. When you achieve success or independence, the person who relied on your weakness or perceived inferiority may feel profoundly unsettled. Your growth is seen as a demotion for them, a disruption of the unspoken agreement that kept you beneath them. Your choices may not have disappointed them, they may have simply revealed to them how little power they actually hold over you. Hostility is a protective reaction to this perceived loss of control. 4. The silence of envy. Perhaps the most insidious force is envy, which rarely announces itself. It hides in the silent spaces of a relationship, disguised as indifference, critical distance, or backhanded compliments. Envy feeds on closeness. Strangers can admire you, but it is often those nearest to you, friends, colleagues, family, who feel the sting of comparison most intensely. When you succeed, a truly envious person may no longer clap as loudly or smile with sincerity. Their support subtly wanes. Words you spoke with innocence are twisted into arrogance, achievements are dismissed as luck. These distortions are not reflections of your truth, but of their envy, which clouds their perception. The silence of envy is a silent prayer for your downfall, not born from malice, but from a profound feeling of inadequacy. Your light exposes the corners of their own unfulfilled potential. They can forgive your weaknesses, but your strength, your light, and your excellence awaken their own deep-seated insecurities. The wisdom of non-personalization. Understanding this dynamic is the key to mental and emotional freedom. It allows you to stop taking the hatred personally. When you see clearly, you realize they are not fighting you, they are fighting themselves. You are simply the stage upon which their inner conflict is projected. Their hostility is not a measure of your worth, but a measure of their unhealed wound. Your growth is not the cause of their pain, but the trigger that reveals the pain already there. You cannot prevent people from projecting their shadow, clinging to their illusions, or reacting to shifts in power. Their struggle may remain unacknowledged, and their hostility unexplainable to them. But if you see it clearly, you will no longer be deceived by appearances. You will know that beneath the mask of hatred, the eruption of envy, or the wall of rejection, there is a shadow that refuses to be seen. And it is that shadow, not their conscious self, that is truly speaking. Your only task, in the face of this, is to stand fully in your own light. Do not shrink to accommodate their discomfort. Do not dim your essence to avoid triggering their shadow. Your authenticity will always be challenging to some, but it is the greatest gift you can offer the world, a quiet, powerful inspiration for others to eventually face their own reflection. The deeper shadow work, navigating the hostility you awaken. The realization that hostility directed toward you is primarily a projection is a moment of profound psychological liberation. It moves you from the center of blame to the position of an unwilling catalyst. But this knowledge is not a passive excuse, it's a call to deeper, active self-awareness and mindful interaction. 5. The ethical demand, recognizing your own shadow. Understanding projection in others is only half the work. The full depth of this insight requires you to turn the mirror back onto yourself. Just as others project their disowned traits onto you, you are continually projecting your own shadow onto the world. The people, situations, or qualities that trigger you with unusual intensity are often your most powerful teachers. The overt arrogance you despise in a colleague may be a sign of your own buried hunger for recognition or a fear of expressing your earned confidence. The over-the-top emotionality you condemn may reflect your own suppressed grief or tenderness, the feeling you fear is too weak to show. The laziness or lack of drive that irritates you may point to the exhausted, unrested part of yourself that you refuse to acknowledge or care for. To deny this internal reflection is to live in perpetual blindness, forever blaming the external world. To integrate the shadow, to acknowledge that you, too, are a complex mix of light and dark, virtue and vice, is the highest form of personal maturity. This integration work is not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming whole, which makes you a more stable and less reactive human being. When your own shadow is less active, the shadows of others lose some of their power to destabilize you. 6. The necessity of boundaries and non-engagement. When you recognize that an attack is a projection, your strategy must shift from defense to disengagement. You are not required to participate in someone else's inner war. The power of not taking the bait.